Nathan Cruz here with Carlson Software. In this video, I'm going to give a quick overview of the new features and functionality in the latest release of Precision 3D Topo 2016.2. And one of the first commands I'm going to show you is after loading this LandXML 2.0 file and going through a number of applications, we found that there's obviously holes in the surface. And so we've added a new command to surfaces. So once you select the surface, we have a repair and identify holes routine. In this case, it found 28, automatically repaired 28, and we don't have any remaining. If it was remaining, you'd get another group of polylines that are time-stamped with the hole detection so that you can quickly find it and repair the holes manually. But in this case, the automatic repair worked, and you can see that there are no longer any holes in the surface. A couple other generic commands that we add are the copy and move command for pretty much any object in the scene. So in this case, I'll just make a copy of this light pole, and it automatically uses the insertion point as the new pick point insertion point for the object. And in this case, it's the insertion point of a 3D object. If I do the same thing on a polyline, it's going to use the start point of the polyline as the insertion point. So here, you can see it using the first starting point of the polyline. The move command is a little bit different in that it will ask you for the base point. So if you want to move an object relative to some other object, so for example, if we wanted to move this guy so it's the same distance from this pole as this light pole, then we can do that, essentially. Now, other new commands that we have are some additional polyline commands. So these are building outlines that came in through survey data. And we now have the ability to join polylines, break polylines, edit individual slopes, and we have a vertical offset for polylines and horizontal offsets. So I'll show the horizontal offset, which always makes a copy, and I'm going to just make that 10 feet and then press enter. You can also hold the right mouse button down and use the scroll wheel to scroll up and down in that mouse wheel increment of even feet until you get it, until you like it, and you press the enter or the right mouse key by itself to end the command. So now we've just created a horizontal offset of this guy. Now we can create a vertical offset for this guy, again using the right mouse wheel up to 18 feet and pressing enter. So in this way, basically you can use this for construction geometry to simulate buildings or curbs or walls, as we have in this other example. The interesting things that you can do with this geometry once you have it. Let me reselect this guy. So it's in 3D mode, and what I'm going to do is create a surface from it, and I'm going to load that surface, and then what I'm going to do is take this surface, put it in 3D mode, or this polyline, put it in 3D mode, and I'm going to right click and I'm going to add it to the surface. And it's going to ask me to pick the surface in question, and I'll pick that upper surface, and now we have just created, I don't know, sort of an offset looking little finger hut style fast food place. And of course we can use the auto texture command where we can add a nice little brick texture to that, And then we have another command for polylines, which is create texture. So in some cases, when you get these really nested polylines, it becomes difficult to figure out which area that you actually want the texture to show up in. So in this case, we have an explicit command that says take this polyline and create a texture. And we're going to make it a asphalt roof. Drape it to the surface. So if it's not closed, we'll close it for you automatically. If it's not draped to the surface, we'll automatically drape it. And another command is select texture. So if you right click over any area of a surface, you can right click and select that texture. Once that texture is selected, you can modify either its color or its resolution. So if we wanted to make these a little bit smaller bricks, make them a little bit more realistic, we can go ahead and do that. So that is the offset horizontal, offset vertical commands. Now, what I'm going to do with this guy is put it back into 3D mode, and I'm going to do another, let's see, no, not with this one. Yeah, that guy's pretty much finished. I think what we'll do is come over here, basically show the break polyline. So it remembers the point where I right mouse clicked, it finds the closest point to the polyline. So if I wanted to break the polyline over here, simply mouse over and redo that. Interesting thing about our snaps is that even though we have join polyline commands, if you grip edit a polyline and have the node snap enabled, it will attempt to close polylines. But in this case, I've broken the polyline in a way that now we need to use the join polylines command. So I'm going to pick this guy, I picked that in the wrong order. And we're going to join this one. To that one, and then join the endpoint of this one to the start point of this one. There we go. Now we've joined the polyline all back together. So in that case, you basically want to pick the start point of the first, or the end point of the polyline that you want to join to the beginning point of the next. And in this case, they were coincidental. If we had broken the polyline, let's see, so we just created a really tiny section. So I will delete that one. And break this polyline out here. And then I'll delete that. So if I wanted to do the join command in this case, there isn't a second polyline, but we do have, and it's detecting that at this point. So essentially you're wanting to close the polyline and not join it. So the logic in the in this particular routine is smart enough to know that. Now if you just draw a polyline and you have the vertex snaps onto any polyline that's still open, you can start it from the endpoint and then snap it to the closing point, and then of course if I redrape it to the surface, that'll make a little bit more sense. So I'm going to pick this point, and then I'm going to pick that point, and it automatically joined that polygon back together. Now, also new to this edition of P3D Topo is a quick ability to shut off all of the texture polylines. So if you look at the scene, you notice that there's lots of polyline outlines around all the different subtextured areas. If I shut them off, it looks a little bit cleaner, a little bit more realistic on this particular surface. I can do the same thing when I pick this surface and shut off its polylines as well. And then if I use our import centerline routine, I just imported this centerline, and now what I'm going to do is show you our new animate camera routine. And in this case, we're going to put that 5 feet above ground and 3 feet over. Of course, if we were in England, we'd drive on the other side, but we're not. And we'll pick some reasonably quick speed, and just like the help text says at the top, I'm going to move the mouse cursor off the screen. So now if I press S, I get a nice clean interface to do a movie recording. If I use the left, right, up, and down mouse arrow keys, I can basically control the camera during the animation. So if you want to do pans, so if we wanted to look back along this direction during the animation, we can do that. Press R to restart. You can modify the speed, for example, if you want to go a little bit slower. You can also hide the path during the animation. In this case, it doesn't make any sense because it's really the center line that we want. We have a camera smoothing angle. The default is 0.5 radians per second, and what this does is this slows the rate of change of the camera so that you get a much smoother animation. And then once you're playing this animation, if you move the mouse cursor off of the center of the screen, you can record that center of the screen nice and cleanly for customer presentations. So again, just by using the keyboard arrow keys, we can do some zoom and panning, and we can see a polyline floating up in the air. Again, reset or the R key stops it. So that's the drive along. We also have another new feature. Get rid of that little anomaly. We have a new feature that's called the Planar Snap. And so I'm going to use my tooltip, and I'm going to come over here, and we're about 922 in elevation. So I'm going to turn on the Planar Snap, and the Planar Snap's automatically going to look for the highest point in the current scene. If you go to the active snap, so it's set at 941. So basically what I want to do is set this about 1,200 feet initially. And I'm going to draw a polyline that starts here. And now also using the Planar Snap, what I want to do is draw a lower polygon, point on this polyline that's significantly lower. So basically as we fly over or into the scene. And I'm going to make sure that it goes past the surface as well. And I'm going to press enter, and I'm going to turn off our Planar Snap. Now if you look at this polyline, we were able to snap to exactly 1,200 feet and then change the planar elevation to the 950 and snap to exactly that. To prepare us to do a flyover animation. So in this case, we're going to set the offsets to 0, 0, set a higher speed, and this time we're going to hide the path. And we're going to change this to 0.5 to give this a little bit quicker camera panning ability. And I'm going to press S. And so basically now you notice that the camera is moving a bit quicker. We can pan down and around if you're, and in this case, I think the speed is probably just a little bit too slow. So what I'm going to do is bump that up to 125, pan down just a smidge, re-hit the S key, and that's a little bit better. So basically simulating, if you wanted to highlight this particular accident scene and building area parking lot as you fly over, you can do that. Now, the one thing that we don't do is automatically record the movie file for you, but you can use any screen capture software that'll record movies of your screen, and basically just pick the 3D window and record it during these animations. And in that way, that's why we have the keyboard controls, and we de-highlight everything in the scene so it looks as clean as possible. So again, you don't see anything that's selected on the screen. We don't see any polylines. We see as much realistic view in motion as possible. Okay. All right, so we should do the merge surfaces, pad templates. Let's see. Yes, so in our pad template routine now, so we can take any polyline, and so if I wanted to create a polyline that is a 100 feet, increments of 100 feet. All right, so let's, we don't. I'm just going to draw a rough polyline here. So in our pad template command, one of the more difficult things is if you wanted to bring the pad template into a cut scenario, what was often difficult was to select the pad template surface after you were done cutting it into the surface. So now when I press enter, in this case, it's going to ask us if we want to automatically merge the surface. And so in this case, we've automatically merged the surface so we can see it. Now we can go in and we can also auto texture it and do things like that. So that really covers a lot of the new enhancements. So our field to finish commands were used to bring in a lot of survey data here. A lot of this line work, the trees, the power poles, walls, building outlines, were all brought in through our field to finish feature, and then added to an existing design road out of Carlson Civil. And then we were able to go in and do a lot of surface editing and cleanups to this particular surface, do a lot of texturizing, and we saved it as a land XML 2.0 file. And in doing that, found that we had some holes. So now we have a repair holes command so that you can basically repair any surface that comes in that has holes where they shouldn't be. Lots of new commands like our copy and move commands that work for pretty much any object in the scene. And then the new polyline editing functions. One which I did not show was the edit polyline slope. So basically, if you click on any polyline slope or any polyline segment, you can modify its slope value. So here, if we wanted to make this 0, and 0, and then press enter, we effectively just modified that particular slope value, those slope values. So you can essentially select the segment that you want to edit the slope on. To edit the vertex elevations, you basically just highlight the polyline and then you click on the segment that you're interested in, and that segment becomes the active segment. And you can see here, now it's segment 18. It shows you the starting and the ending elevations, and you can modify those. I'll do a really exaggerated change so that you can see that we just edited that one vertex. And that is the rough overview of the new and improved functionality and new features for Precision 3D Topo 2016.2 release.